Dasa karuna kori. Oh hey Vaishnava Thakura Doyara Sagara Dasa karuna kori. Diya parachara Joro he amai tomara charana dhori. Jaya bega domi, jaya dosha shodhi, jaya guna deho dase. Jaya satsanga deho he amare bose si sange rashe. Ekaki ama nahi bhai balo harinama sankirtane. Tumi kripa kori shodha bindu diya deho Krishna nama khane. Krishna se toma, Krishna dite paro, tomara shakti ache. Krishna se toma, Krishna dite paro, tomara shakti ache. Amito kanga, Krishna Krishna boli daitava pache pache. Oh hey Vaishnava Thakur Doyara Sagaro Dasa karuna kori. Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Jai Vaishnava Thakur. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Ujvala Varana Gora Varadeham Vilasita Niravari Bhava Videham Sri Bhumana Pavana Krupaya Lesham Nam Pranamami Cha Chaitanyam Gadgaram Tara Baba Vikaram Gurujana Tarjana Nada Vishalam Bhavabhaya Bhajana Karana Karunam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanyam Arunam Varadara Charu Kapolam Indu Vinindita Nakachaya Ruchiram Jaltita Nijaguna Nama Vinodam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanyam Digalita Nayana Kamala Jaladaram Bhushana Navarasa Bhava Vikaram Gati Mantara Nritya Vilasam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanyam Chanchalu Charana Gati Ruchiram Manjira Ranjita Parajuga Madhuram Chandra Vinindita Shitala-varanam Champranamami Cha Shri Sachitanyam Dhritikati Tora Kamandalu Dandam Divyakkalevara Mundata Mundam Durjana Kalmasha Kandana Dandam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanyam Bhushana Bhuraja Alakavalitam Kampita Bindara Vararuchiram Malaya Javira Chitta Ujjvala Tilakam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanyam Nindita Aruna Kamala Dalanayanam Ajanulam Vita Shri Bujadigalam Dvevara Kaishora Nartaka Vesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanyam Galavarana Tora Varadeham Vilasika Niravari Baba Videham Purna Pavana Krupaya Lesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Chaitanya. Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jaya Gaura Hari. Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Gaura Hari. Jai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All together. Dibabari Shesha Aloka Pravisha Zakari Utajiva Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Morari Rama Krishna Hayati Nashinga Vamana Shimarusurana Rajendra Nandana Shama Putana Gatana Kaita Vashatana Jaya Dasharati Rama Yashoda Dhulala Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Purandara Gopi Priya Jana Radhika Ramana Bhuvana Sundara Vara Ravana Kakara Makana Taskara Gopi Jana Vastra Hare Vajrana Kala Gopa Vrindapala Chitta Hari Vansidhari Yogindra Bandana Shivandanandana Vrajajana Vayahari Navina Nirara Rupa Manohara Mohana Banshri Vihari Yashoda Nandana Tamsani Shurana Nikunjara Samila Karamakanana Rasaparayana Vrindati Pini Vilasi Ananda Vardhana Premani Ketana Kulashara Jojakama Gopangana Gana Chitta Vinorana Namasta Gunagana Jamuna Jivana Keliparayana Manasha Chandra Chakora Namashudarasa Yao Krishna Jasha Rakho Bachara Manamora Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai. Vyasuvacha Iti Samprashna Samprishto Vipranam Brahmaharshini Kati Puja Vachastesham Prabhatu Upachakrame Sutuvacha Yam Pravajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Kartara Ajuhava Utreti Tanmatayata Ominedus Tam Sarva Bhuta Hridayam Munim Anatosmi Yasmadubhavam Akila Shuti Saramekam Adhyatmadipam Atitirshatam Tamondham Samsarinam Karunayaha Purana Kuhyam Tam Vyasasunu Payami Guruninam Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhiraye Naya Sadhukrishtoham Bhavadhir Lokamangalam Yakrita Krishna Samprashno Enatma Suprasidati Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo Tu Bhakti Radhoksaje Ahaituki Apratiyata Yatma Suprasidati Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatya Shubhairagyam Jnanam Chayarahaitukam Dharma Swarushtita Pumsa Vishvaksena Kathasuya Notpada Yedyadiratim Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam Dharmasya Hyapavargasya Nartorto Yopakalpate Nartasya Dharmaikantasya Kamolabhaya Hismitaha Kamasya Nindriya Pritir Lavo Jivete Yavata Jivasya Tattva Jignasya Narto Yasheha Karmabhi Vadanti Tattva Vidas Tattvanyajnam Namavyayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate Tashradadhana Munayo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Pashyantya Mani Chatmanam Bhakta Shruta Grihitaya Ata Pumbir Dvija Shreshta Varnashrama Vibhagasha Swanustistasya Dharmasya Samsidhir Haritoshanam Tasmade Kena Manasa Bhagavan Sattva-tampati Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Deyam Pujasta Nityada Yad Anudyasina Yukta Karma Granti Nibandhanam Chindanti Kovidastasya Kona Kuryat Kataratim Shushrusho Shradhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevanad Shrinvatam Swahata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Prityantaksto Hyapadrani Vitunoti Suhritsatam Nashta Preshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki tada rajastamo bhava kama lobha dayaschaye cheta iter anavidham stitam sattve prasidati evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate vidyate hridaya grantish chityante sarva samshaya shiyante chasya karmani krishna eva manishvare ato vai kavayo nityam bhaktim paramayamudam vasudeve bhagavati kurvantyatma prasadanim sattvam rajastama iti prakritir gunastar yukta para purusha eka ihasiddhate stityade hari varinshi hareti samya sheyamsi tatra kalu safatanoranrinam suhu partivadarano dumas tasmanagnistrayi maya tamasastu rajastasmad saffam yad brahmadarshanam dejire munayotagre bhagavantam atoksacham saffam vishudham shemaya kalpante ye nutanniha mumukshavo gora rupan hitva bhuta patinata narayana kalashanta Panjanti Hyanasuyava Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajanti Vai Pitrir Bhuta Prajeshadin Shri Aishwarya Prajepsavaha Vasudeva Paraveda Vasudeva Paramaka Vasudeva Parayoga Vasudeva Parakriya Vasudeva Param Jnanam Vasudeva Param Tapaha Vasudeva Paro Dharmo Vasudeva Paragati Sa Evedam Sasarjagre Bhagavanat Mamayaya Sarasadrupaya Chasau Gunamaya Guno Vibhu Taya Vilashite Shveshu Guneshu Gunavaniva Anta pravishta abhati vignanena vrajimvita yata naneva bhati vishvatma bhuteshu cha tatapuman asau gunamayer bhavir bhuta sukshmendriyatmabhi swanirmiteshu nirvishto Bhukte bhuteshu tadgunan Bhavayat yesha satvena Lokan vai loka bhavana Lila vatara nurato Devatiryan naradishu Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsyam Samitayam Pratamaskande Namashiyo Prakyane Dvitiyo Dhyayaha Hari Arjuna Vacha Evam Satata Yukta Ye Bhaktastvam Pariyupasate Ye Chapyaksharam Avyaktam Tesham Ke Yoga Vittamaha Sri Bhagavan Vacha Maya Vesha Mano Ye Mam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shradaya Parayote Tas Te Me Yukta Tamamataha Ye Tvaksharam Anirdyesham Avyaktam Paryupasate Sarvatra Gam Achintyam Cha Kutastam Achalam Dhruvam Saniyam Yendriya Gramam Sarvatra Samabhutaya Te Prapnuvanti Mameva Sarvabhuta Hiterata Klesho Dikattarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam, avyakta hi gatir dukam, dehavadbir avapyate, yetu sarvani karmani, mai sanyasya matpara, ananyenaiva yogena, mam jayanta upasate, teshamaham samudarta, mrityu samsara sagarat, bhavamina chirat partha, maya veshitchatetasam, mayeva mana addatsva, mayi buddhim niveshaya, nivishisyasi mayeva, ata urvam samshaya, atachitam samadatum, na shaknoshi mayistiram, abhyasa yogino tato, mami chaptum dhananjaya, abhyase pyasamartosi, mat karma paramo bhava, madartam api karmani, purvam siddhim abhapsyasi, ataitad apyashaktosi, kartum mad yogam ashrita, sarva karma palatyagam, tatakuru yatatmavan, shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj, jnanat jnanam vashishyate, jnanat karma palatyagas, tyagas shantir anantaram, adveshta sarva bhutanam, maitra karana evacha, nirmamo nirahankara, samadhuka sukashami, santusha satatam yogi, yatatma dhrita nishchaya, mayarpita mano budhir, yomad bhakta same priyaha, yasman no dvijate loko, lokan no dvijate chaya, harsham arsha bayodvegir, mukto yasa chame priyaha. Nectar of instruction. Upadeshamrita. Tyagi bhakta same priyaha, yo na hrishyati na dveshti, na shochati na kankshati, shubha shubha parityagi, bhakti manya same priyaha, samakshatrao cha mitre cha, tatamana pamanayo, shitoshna sukhatu keshu, samaksanga vavarjita, tulyanindastutir mauni, santusho yena kenachit, aniketas tiramatir, bhaktiman me priyo naraha, ye tu dharmamritam medam, yatoktam paryupasate, shradadhana matparama, bhaktaste teva me priyaha. Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Sambhare Bhakti Yogo Nama Dvadashodhyayaha Hari Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam, jiva vegam udarapasta vegam, itan veganyo vishaheta dhira, sarvamapi mam pritivim sashishyad, atyahara prayashascha, prajalpo niyamagraha, janashangascha lalyam cha, shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. Utsahan nishchayadharyat tat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat shatovrate shadbir bhakti prasiddhyati Dadati pratagrunnati bhuyamakyati prishyati Punkte bojayate chaiva shadvidam pratilakshanam Krishneti yasya kiritam manasadriyeta Dikshasti che pranati bishya bhajantamisham Shushushaya bhajana vignamananyamanya Nindari shunya hridamitsita sangalabhya Drishtai sabhava janitar vapushashta doshar Na prakritatva paktya janasya pashyed Gangam nasam nakalabhut buddhapena pankar Brahmadravavvam apagachati niradharmai Syat Krishna nama charitari sitapta vidya Pito patapta rasanasya narochikanu Kindva varat anudilam kalu sarva dushta Swadvikramad bhavati tad ganamula hantri Tannama rupa charitari sukirtananu Smrityo kramena rasanamanasi niyoja Tishtam vrajetananuragi jananugami Kalam nayera kilamiti patesha saram Vaikuntasjanito varamarupurita trapi rasotsavar Vrindaranya mudara paniramanat tatrapi govardhanaha Radha kunda mihapi gokulapate premamratap lavanat Kuryarasya virajato Karmibhya parito hare priyataya vyaktim yogyaninas Tebhyo jnani vimukta bhakti parama premaika nishtastata Tebhyasta pashupala pankada drishastabhyopi saradika Preshta tadvariyam tadiya sarasi tam nashayat kakriti Krishnasyo chai pranaya vasati priyasibhyopi radha Kundam chasya munibhirabhitasthadrage vavyadayi Yat preshtar apyalam asulabam kim punar bhakti bhajam Tat premedam sakrit api sarasnatur avishkaroti Shri Upadeshamrita Sampurnam Radhe Shyam Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate Ishavasyam Midang Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bunjita Magridhakas Siddhanam Purvane veha karmani jijivi shekshatam samaha evam tvainanyate tosti na karma lipite nare asurya namate loka andhena tamasavrataha tamste pritya vigachanti ye kechatma hanojanaha Anejadikam manaso jabhiyo Naina deva abnuvan purvanarshat Tadavato jnanat yeti tishtat Tasminapo mattarishva dadati Tadejati tannaijati Tadhure tadvantike Tarantarasya sarvasya Tadu sarvasya bhayataha Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyevanupashyati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijagupsate. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaivadbhut vijanataha tatra ko mahakashoka ekatvam anupashyataha saparya gachukram akayam avranam ashnaviram shudham apapavidham kavir manishi paribhusvayambhur yathatyat yathorthan vyadadashasvatibhya samabhyaha andantama pravishyanti ye vidyamupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo ya'u vidyayam rataha anyareva hurvidyaya anyanahuravidyaya iti shushu madhiranam yenastad vichachakshire vidyam cha yas tadvedo bayam saha avidyayam ratum tirtva vidyayam ratum ashnute andantama pravishyanti ye sambhutim upasate tato puya evate tamo ya'u sambhutyam rataha anyareva hur sambhavad anyarahur sambhavad. Sambhutim cha vinasham cha yastad vedo bayam saha vinashena mrityum tirtva sambhutyam mritum ashnute hiranmayena patrena satyasa pihitam mukham tatvam pushanda pavrenu satyadharmaya drishtaye Pushanne karshe yamasurya prajapatya vyuharashmin samuha tejo yate rupam kalyanattamam tate pashami yo savasau purushasom asmi vayura anilam amratam atedam vasmantam shariram om kratos smara kritam smara kratos smara kritam smara agnenaya supataraya sman vishvani deva vayunani vidvan yuyodhyasmaschuharana meno uishtam te nama uktim videma Sri Ishapanishad Sampurnam Hari Om. Namashreshtam manamapi shachiputramatra sarupam Sri Rupam tasyagrajam. Shall we? Namashreshtam manamapi shachiputramatra sarupam Sri Rupam tasyagrajam uruparim maturim goshtavatim Radha kundam girivaramoho radhika madhavasham Prapto yasya pratita kripaya Shri Gurum tam natosmi Hey Guru Jnana Dina Bandho Swananda Data Korunaika Sindho Vrindavana Sina Hitavatar Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara Hey Dina Bandho Korunaika Sindho Guru Prasada Maya Mandamudhe Laksha Parade Bahupapa Gadhe Tatpada Padme Stumatishta Krishna. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachimata, the association of Srila Surup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatan Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kunda and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Shri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a doleful and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and Master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagavati Sadma Vanda Mui Savadana Bhate Jahara Prashare Bhai He Bhavato Viyajai Krishna Prabhi Hoy Jaha Hoy Te Haribo, go. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Shri Tete Ko Viya Aikya Anakori ho maniyasa Shri Guru Charane Rati Eshe Samagati Shri Guru Charane Rate Eshe Utamagate Je Prachare Pure Sarva Jai Prashade Pure Sarva Sapindan Dilote Janme Jane Prabhu She Jnana Hre Prokashita Prema Bhakti Jahoite Avidya Vinasa Jate Gede Gai Jahara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Lokana Lokera Jivana Ha ha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha Mure Pada Chaya Ebe Jaki Tribhuvana Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine Namah Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavali Pashatya Vishatadine Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada ki jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Privrajagacharya Stotra Shri Shrimad Bhai Charanara Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Rara Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Privrajagacharya Stotra Shri Shrimad Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sri Mayapur Nam Deeptam ki jai. Sri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Samveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Welcome, everyone. We're now going to have a short discussion, much shorter than the sages at Naimisharanya. They gathered for 1,000 years. We'll just be here for a few minutes. But we could always take advantage of every minute, thinking that every moment of human life is precious. It's a preparation, because the human body is a special facility to fully develop one's consciousness and become Krishna conscious, which ultimately means to develop prema, or love for Krishna. As the esteemed Bhagavad-ashraya Prabhu pointed out this morning, that love for Krishna is already there within the heart, but due to association with matter since a time immemorial, the soul becomes distracted and covered by various conceptions of life called upadhis. For instance, one might think that I am a man or a woman or a cat or a dog. Or one might think that I'm American or I'm Canadian or I'm Ethiopian or I'm Indian. However, these are temporary designations. Our real designation is mentioned by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. And he gives the perspective of somebody who's come to perfect knowledge and has become learned. And he says, Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmaniga vihastani shuni chaiva shupakecha pandita samadarshina. That a learned person doesn't see a body. Although, yes, he or she sees the body, but actually he's fully aware that there's a soul within each body, and that soul is part and parcel of Krishna. It's an eternal servant of Krishna. And therefore, although he may interact with people in a dutiful way, for instance, the tiger is not one to be petted, or if one is dealing with others, one should do so with decorum. However, at the same time, the devotee sees and gives respect to the soul and the supersoul within each body. And Krishna mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita in many places, but one is Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridaya sharajuna tishtiti brahmayan sarvabhutani yantram rudrani maya. He says that I come with you, the soul, everywhere you go, in every body. So we may know that when we look at someone, we mustn't just see the external feature, that here's a person from a certain station in life, or this is a particular kind of body. But we should know that not only is the soul there, but also Krishna is there. So we can offer respects to all living beings. And especially those who have evolved their consciousness. As we just read, Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshasti chet pranatibisha bhajantamisham shushushaya bhajanavigna mananya manya nindadi shunya hridamipsita sangalabhya. This is a verse we recited earlier in our kind of mantra trance we were doing. Did you all feel like a little trance? Did you feel like your brain got bigger? Much bigger, right? So it's important to take time in the day to chant the Sanskrit shlokas from the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vaishnava literatures, because then they're always there with you when you need them. And we always need them. And so there's a way in which, what was I about to say? From the Sri Upanishad or something? Huh? Oh yeah, thank you. There are various levels of devotees. The first level is one who just says Hare Krishna. Second level is somebody who's made a vow to chant Hare Krishna. And the third level is somebody who made a vow and has been chanting steadily and whose heart has actually changed because of that, and then becomes a refined person, which means, according to this verse, Nindadi shunya hridamipsita sangalabhya. That person is no longer interested in decrying the activities of others because of envy. But nindadi shunya means, ninda means I have the tendency to criticize others because it makes me feel better about myself. Well, they're not that good. I could have done that, etc. But the person is purified in heart, and therefore doesn't have the propensity of envy anymore within the heart. This is an evolved person. Because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that it's natural in this world to have this tendency to hate. Icha dvesha samutena dvandva mohina bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parandapa. The nature of the interactions between living beings in this world is icha dvesha. There's desire, I want something from you. And also, I hate that you have something that I don't have. These are the two features. That's why everyone fights all the time. It's like, how come you moved your fence 2 inches towards this is my land? It's not your land. It's not your water either. Nothing belongs to us in this world. Everything belongs to Krishna. Nonetheless, I label everything. This is mine. That's yours. You stay over there. I stay over here. And then we fight. But the devotee's not interested in fighting. Of course, the devotees will fight. Arjuna fought for dharma. But only on behalf of Krishna do they fight. Not on their own desire that I want something. That the devotees want something only for Krishna. And dvesha, devotees actually are like Krishna in the sense that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Samaham sarvabhuteshu name dveshostina priya. That I'm equal to everybody. I don't have friends and enemies. I don't make this distinction. He's my friend, he's my enemy. They're all parts and parcels of Krishna. And ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. If somebody out of the souls steps forward and says that I'm following Krishna, I'm going to worship Krishna, and then Krishna says, ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya, that bhakta, that person, then I'm in him and he's in me. There's an intimate connection. That intimate connection's already there, but it's to be realized through the process of Krishna consciousness and purification. So this next song is a song written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of the great acharyas in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who helped to spread the Sankirtan movement all over the world. And he wrote this song to give us a window into the spiritual world. What is going on in the spiritual world that most people don't talk about? If you look up today on CNN, Fox News, I don't recommend it, either any of these, MSNBC or New York Times, Washington Post, you won't find this song. People are talking about who killed who, who killed whom, and all the wranglings going on in the material world. How high is inflation? How far did the stock market drop? How much further is it going to drop? And et cetera, ad infinitum. These things are always going on, but they never think of the spiritual world. You'll nary will you find a word about the spiritual world. So we have the luxury of sitting here together this morning and singing about Krishna in the spiritual world. And this song is called Jaya Radha Madhava, and it has all the names of Krishna, especially those in relationship to his devotees. There's different kinds of devotees. Some devotees worship Krishna in a passive way. They are adding something to the environment by being there and just appreciating Krishna. And then there's the devotees who think of Krishna in service. They're so grateful. They tip over at a certain point from appreciation into, I have to do something for this person. He's so wonderful. And these are the servants of Krishna. And there are many different kinds of servants, but they're the ones who move into action and they want to do some service. They're there in the spiritual world also. And then the next level comes as the sakhas, the friends of Krishna, those who develop a friendly, loving relationship with Krishna. And some of those friendships actually, in the spiritual world, especially Goloka Vrindavan, which is mentioned in the Brahma Samhita, Goloka Namni Nija Damni, it's the personal abode of Krishna. Then those devotees, they feel equal with Krishna. Although no one's equal to Krishna, in the Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna associates with his devotees, then there's this sense of equality because Krishna suppresses his opulence as the supreme so that he can just have loving relationships with his devotees. And then there are the devotees who try to nurture Krishna, like the parents. And the cows are also in Vatsalya Ras because they're always thinking, how can I give milk to Krishna? And his parents, and the parent, like in a village actually, for a little child, everyone's a mother. It's not separated. That's my child, nobody else. But in the village life, especially Vrindavan, all the mothers come. They're all there nurturing. So this is a mood of Vatsalya. And then there's Madhurya Ras, where the devotees have this unbounded love for Krishna. And it's more like boyfriend, girlfriend, although it doesn't have the implications that it does in this world. This world is the opposite because it's a reflection of the spiritual world. What's most exalted there becomes the most degraded here. So this song has the names of Krishna in relationship with his devotees in the spiritual world. So what's important about us singing these names? Well, just imagine that if somebody, any of us were walking down the street in Kuala Lumpur. Anybody been there? Okay. Let's say you're in a neighborhood you've never been to before in Kuala Lumpur. And you're walking down the street and let's say you have a nickname. Nobody knows it but your mother. Anybody have a nickname that only your mother knows? Yes? So you're walking down the street and then all of a sudden someone leans out the window and they says, "Hey, Kana." And then you think, who was that? How did they know that's my nickname? And you'd spin around and you'd think, who knows me? And in the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's process of devotional service, we actually relish and sing and repeat the names of Krishna in the spiritual world in relationship with his most intimate devotees. And when he hears those, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, that 11th canto, 2nd chapter, 55th verse, Vrishrijati hridayam yasya sakshad, dari ravisha abhihito pyagoganata. There's a way that if anybody utters the name of Krishna, he's inclined to give many benedictions to that person. But pranaya, rasanaya, pranaya, dritangri padma, if you sing his names with love, and you know what you're doing, which is a whole other realm, then you tie up his lotus feet in your heart, and he won't leave you, ever. So if anyone wants to know how to be successful in life, how to be fortunate, how to be happy, it's just to sing the names of God. And these are the best of names because they're the nicknames of Krishna in relationship with his devotees. Shall we try it? Sounds a little scary. Maybe we shouldn't do it. Let's stop and we'll bring a TV and watch CNN instead. What do you think? No? Okay, let's try. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Nanda Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari. Second line down. Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, the first mantra in the book that we're going to look at today, called Srimad Bhagavatam, is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'll say, and we can repeat 3 times together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And the next mantra is one that where we're offering obeisances to the author, to Goddess Saraswati, and we're getting ready to enter into hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. And now, since I used up so much time earlier chanting shlokas till the cows came home, then we'll go right to the Bhagavatam. And today I'm going to read to you from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, which is entitled The Lord in the Heart. Just check your heart. See if the Lord's in there. Is he there? Okay, good. And I'll read the Sanskrit and then the translation, and then we'll go into the purport, which is a commentary given by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Tenat manat manam upaiti shantam anandam anandamayo vasane etam gatin bhagavatim gatohya savai punar neha vishuddhate na. Translation is, only the purified soul can attain the perfection of associating with the personality of Godhead in complete bliss and satisfaction in His conditional state. Whoever is able to renovate such devotional perfection is never again attracted by this material world, and he never returns. Here's the purport. We should specially note in this verse the description of Gatim Bhagavatim, to become merged in the rays of the Parabrahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as desired by the Brahman. I'm sorry? That number is 2231. But you can just listen. Sages didn't have a PowerPoint. We should specially note in this verse the description of Gatim Bhagavatim, to become merged in the rays of the Parabrahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as desired by the Brahmavadi impersonalist, is not Bhagavatim perfection. The Bhagavatas never accept merging in the impersonal rays of the Lord, but always aspire after personal association with the Supreme Lord in one of the Vaikuntha spiritual planets in the spiritual sky. The whole of the spiritual sky, of which the total number of the material skies is only an insignificant part, is full of unlimited numbers of Vaikuntha planets. The destination of the devotee, the Bhagavata, is to enter into one of the Vaikuntha planets. in each of which the personality of Godhead in his unlimited personal expansions enjoys himself in the association of unlimited numbers of pure devotee associates. The conditioned souls in the material world, after gaining emancipation by devotional service, are promoted to these planets, but the number of ever-liberated souls is far, far greater than the number of conditioned souls in the material world, and the ever-liberated souls in the Vaikuntha planets never care to visit this miserable material world. I offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and to all of you, because you are Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna. Now, let's hear what you heard in the first paragraph, or see if you have a question. Yes, Prabhu. To the life and soul of Koladweep.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So Maharaj, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that the Brahman realization is not proper or it's complete realization. But if you read 1 to 11, there it says like the absolute truth can be realized in 3 ways. So we know that only the Sat aspect is there, means the eternity aspect is there in Brahman realization. But those who are actually aspiring for that realization, there are references that it's not complete. But if you can actually a little bit elaborate how they are not complete, that will be really helpful.
Sure. Well, those who read the Bhagavad Gita hear directly from Krishna, and that's not so hard. It's available to everybody, has been for thousands of years, and incidentally, its textual purity is well known because it's been guarded by the great acharyas who have commentated on the Bhagavad Gita practically more than any other book that actually, empirically, you can discern this, that the commentaries are abundant on the Bhagavad Gita, and therefore it's been watched very carefully. It's all in place. And in the Gita, Krishna cuts to the chase. It's the Gita-upanishad. He's actually giving the essence of all the advice, because after all, it's only 700 verses. The Padma Purana and other books like that, you can't count the verses practically and never come to the end of it. This is very short and to the point. Krishna says, Brahmano hi pratishtaham amritasya vayasya cha shashvatasya chatarmasya sukasya ikandikasya cha. He gives us a point that I'm the basis of the impersonal Brahman. So when you know a subject, as the Bhagavatam then points out, Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdite, that you should know things in relationship to other things. The problem is when the cause of the Brahman is not understood, and people get it reversed, and then they think Brahman is the ultimate goal, and then when Krishna comes, it's actually a material thing. His body, they think, is made of the 3 modes of material nature. And as some commentators, in an unauthorized way, with no support shastrically, have said, well, when Krishna says, you should think of me, you should surrender to me, it's not Krishna you should think of, it's the unborn within Krishna you should think of. This is rank speculation, because there's no shastric support for such a statement. But nonetheless, Krishna says, avyaktam vyaktam manyate mama buddhaya param bhavam bhajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Plenty of people get it wrong. And then they think that from the unmanifested, I manifest. But Krishna gives it very clearly that I'm the basis of impersonal Brahman. So one should know when one worships Brahman, and there's nothing wrong with it because it's Krishna. But one should know what the basis of that is. And people then, according to their appreciating capacity, are able to know various features of the Supreme. As mentioned by Shukadeva Goswami in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the story of Aghasura, he says, itam satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasyam gatanam paradaivatena mayashitanam naradarakena sakam vrajarukrita punya punja. He names the ways in which people in various types of consciousness become aware of the Supreme. So, first of all, he says, there are some that are only aware of Brahman. So they think God is just the light. And then he said, there are some that are in this mood of reverence towards God. And that they see him as Lord Hari in Vaikuntha only. Then there are some who are covered by the modes of nature. And they just think he's an ordinary person, like them. Maybe a little more expert, like Duryodhana. Everyone knows Duryodhana, right? One of the figures of the Mahabharata. Actually, he was demoniac mentality. He thought, and of course back then, 5,000 years ago, practically everyone had some mystic potency. So he had, and then he thought, well, Krishna is a little better than me, but not a big deal. Not to get all excited about. and so, Mayashitanam Naradarakena, he's just Naradarakena, he's just an ordinary person. Then, Sakamvrjarukrita Punya Punja, but those who have gotten Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti, that means it's this very special association with pure devotees who know Krishna's personal form and have a relationship with him, as I mentioned before. And know him as the origin of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate iti matava bhajante mam. Yeah, if someone knows Krishna is the origin of everything, including Brahman and including the Paramatma, everything's emanating from him, and understands all these categories, then they, with all their heart, they worship Krishna. So there's nothing wrong with worshiping Brahman. Nor is there anything wrong with worshiping devas, for that matter, as long as one understands who's the boss. Because there are different philosophies. And maybe in Buddhism, they'll say, ultimately, there's no boss. And Mayavad, they say, well, you're the boss, you just haven't realized it yet. And then there's the materialistic people. They're all fighting amongst themselves, trying to become boss. Only the Vaishnavas say, Krishna's the boss, nobody else. And that's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. That's, he says, Matak paratanam nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya, mai sarvamidam protam sutri manigana iva. Everything's hanging on me as pearls are strung on a thread. There's nobody that's better than me or higher than me. And that's good for us because we don't want that role. We can't handle it. Just try it here in the material world. Everyone will jump on you. It's like, you're not the boss. As soon as you become the boss, then everyone starts writing about you in the paper, saying, like, what kind of boss is he? Who does he think he is? He's making a merger on this company? Everyone wants to criticize. But if you're a servant of the 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 servant, 1,000,000 times removed of the boss, then you become a great soul and you're exalted. So Lord Chaitanya puts everything in perspective, and so that we can actually take up the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, which is commonsensical and it's good for us. And he shows us how to understand the different categories of the Supreme, because he's variegated. Parasya Shaktir Vivadaiva Shuyate Swabhavika Jnana Bala Kriyacha. There are many aspects of or energies. They're multifarious energies of the Lord. And the categories of the Supreme are also mentioned in other Puranas, like the Vishnu Purana, Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta, Kshetra Gyakya Tara Para, Avidya Karma Sangyangya, Tritya Shakti Rishite. The Vishnu Purana, as quoted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami, says that, okay, there's the internal potency, it's spiritual. Then there's the external potency, that's the material world. And then there's us. There's the Tatastha Jiva. Tatastha means we're marginal energy. We can associate either with the material world or the spiritual world. So in coming to full knowledge, one has to know Vadanti Tat, Tattva Vidas. We have to know Tattva. The word Tat is the same in English. It's that. You just add an H and you've got that. It's a demonstrative pronoun. It's the same thing as Tat. It came from Sanskrit. And you're just pointing to something and say that. And there's a sense, if you can point to it, it exists. That's what tat means. Tat means that exists. That's why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that there's those who are seers understand what actually exists and what is constantly changing, and they can see the nature of both. And therefore, if one says, oh, God's just energy, then he's made a categorical mistake or a category mistake. He's the energetic. He's not the energy. So we can appreciate the impersonal Brahman, but we must know where it's coming from. Why? Because ultimately, when we come to know that there's a person behind all this energy, then we can actually direct our loving propensity towards him. It's very difficult to love Brahman. Paramatma, okay, but in Paramatma, actually, by definition, it's a mercantile relationship. That's why he's here, to fulfill the desires of all the living entities, because I want, like a little child. If you watch a child, it's all day long, I want, and I want some more. And always asking, I want. So the living entities in the material world, it's me. Look at me. Yes, please look at me. And then Paramatma's there. It's like, how can I help you? But that's not God's ultimate role. His ultimate role, as Prabhupada points out in the Srimad Bhagavatam, is he's got his own life. Yes, he's watching out for us here like a parent. He's got one of those, what are those little devices, you put in one room, so it records the child in there, and you're in the other room reading the paper or something, and you can hear the child's breathing. It's like, hey, he's fine. And then he wakes up and they're like, okay, what do you want? That's Paramatma. He's listening in on us all the time with one of those little devices. And it's like, you want something? It's like, feed me. It's like, okay, here's your food. And then every living entity gets food from Paramatma. He's taking care of everyone. Nityo nityanam, chaitanas chaitananam, ekobahunam, yoviditati kaman. But is that God's job, just to take care of us? No, just like your parents, they have their own life. Like, you don't even know until later. I didn't know. How much did I know my parents? I only met them when they were 40, because I was youngest in the family. And then I was a baby and a completely self-centered little, twerp until I was, well, I still am. So, but how could I know much about them? They had their own life besides like feeding me, where's the peanut butter? Come on, hurry up. All this stuff as a kid. And, they had their own life. I didn't know much about it. I still don't. But when I look back and I think, wow, they were independent people. So God's got his own life too. That's the Nijadam. He doesn't just take care of us, whatever we want. It's like, I want a new car. God, can I have a new car? It's like, yeah, you got to work a little for it, and it's going to get bashed up, but you can have it, You're not going to like it once you get it, but, whatever you want, little jiva. And he's taking care of everyone, but that's not his ultimate role. He has his own interests. He has his own family. He has his own lovers, and he's fully absorbed there. So that's Bhagavan. Just by logic, if you look at the completeness of God, you have to understand that he has his Nijadam, his own place. Is that Rasa Sindhu? I can never tell who's here because of the mask syndrome. Hare Krishna. So, it's a complete subject matter in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahman is explained, Paramatma is explained, and Bhagavan is explained. And this is highly important. Why? Because, as we know, Srila Vyasadeva went to great trouble to explain Brahman and Paramatma. Not so much Bhagavan. And his spiritual master knew that Vyasa was in distress, and therefore he came to visit him. Guru says, what's wrong? You don't look right. I know, I don't feel good, and it's really strange because I've done so much service, and I tried to do the right thing. I wrote all these Vedas, and Narada goes, yeah, you blew it. Tatonyata, kinchana yadvavakshata. He says, whatever you desire to describe that doesn't reach the threshold of describing Bhagavan, he said, that'll simply disturb people's minds. Naishkarmyam apyachuta bhavasha varjitam nashobhate jnanam alam niranjanam kutakpana shashvata padramishvare nacharpitam karma yadapyakaranam. He says, even if you describe self-realization, and it ends at this understanding of naishkarmyam, that work without fruit of results, material world's not my home, I'll just be absorbed in the self. He says, that's not very nice. Niranjanam, no interest in the material world whatsoever. Still, you leave him hanging, he said, and it's not beautiful. So what you need, he says, naishkarmyam apyachuta bhava varjitam. You need achuta bhava, or this sense of love for Krishna. And when you have that, then you actually have what is the most important aspect of life. And in Bhagavatam also, there's indication that we can't extricate ourselves from the variety of the material world unless we have a sense of that personal relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world. Because we're inextricably tied to the material world. What happens is, as soon as we come out of the womb, the senses that we have a relationship with their objects in the material world. Have you ever noticed that? You just talking to your senses, you watch them throughout the day. It's like, why are you going over there? It's like, that's where I live. That's me. That's my thing. I'm connected. We're one. And little living entity, Jiva, comes out of the womb with a new body. Everything's tied up, already tied up. No way of getting out. And it's like, no, I like this. This is what I'm used to. This is the conditioned experience. And until one gets a sense for an aesthetic beauty that is real, it's visceral, and that is a higher taste, then one can't possibly give up the inextricable connection to the sense objects in the material world and the sense that I belong to the material world. I can't give that up unless I have another place to go. Brahman doesn't provide that. It's way too ethereal. And Paramatma doesn't satisfy that. It's tit for tat. But Bhagavan, the idea of the love life of the Supreme. Everyone loves the Supreme. Everyone's there with Krishna. And there's rhythm there. Everyone? Music? You like music? That's where it comes from, spiritual world. 16,000 ragas come from the 16,000 principal gopis. There's 16,000 ragas. Could we learn them all? Possibly, if we work really hard every day. But that's what's in the spiritual world. Beauty, loving relationship, nonstop, what everyone's looking for. Therefore, in Bhagavatam, the Kumaras say, Yat pada pankacha palasa vilasya bhakta karmashrayam gratitam udgartayanti santa tadvanda rikta matayo yatayo piruta shroto ganas tamaranam bhajavasudevam. That, and for the devotees who become entangled in this love of the spiritual world and the relationship that Krishna has with his devotees, then they can easily rise above the variety of the material world, because here it is odious. Research department, the word odious. You'll get your definition in 7 seconds or less, or your money back from today's class. Microphones to the research department, please. Work with me, people.
Odious is from the late 14th century, and it means hateful, deserving of hatred, hated, regarded with aversion or repugnance. And it's from Anglo-French odious, from Old French odious, or directly from Latin odiosus, hateful, offensive, unpleasant, from odium, which is hatred.
Hatred? Yeah, we don't exactly hate the material world, but we do find it objectionable once we see the beauty of the spiritual world. But tadvanda rikta matayo means that if you don't have that sense of connection to the form, the qualities, the stories of the spiritual world, the beauty of it all, then your rikta mateo, your head's empty. And what it'll fill up with? CNN, CSN, MSNBC, Fox, what else is there? New York Times, Washington Post, blah, blah, blah. Same thing recycled over and over again. And even the best of literature in the material world, you can go into studying literature. And no doubt, it has an attractive feature to it. And when you read literature that actually has some refinement to it. But the Bhagavatam, Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Pratishlokam Vadyavadyapi, amidst all the literatures in the world, they pale in comparison to the beauty of the language of the Bhagavatam describing the spiritual world. It's inexplicable. And even amongst all the Vedas, and there's thousands, millions of verses in the Vedas and Puranas, amidst all of them, the Bhagavatam stands as the king above all of them. And so if one can then become acquainted with and then even slightly attracted to the idea of Krishna in the spiritual world and catch on to the narrative of the spiritual world, then one no longer cherishes or is obligated, for that matter, to be absorbed in all the other stuff in the material world. If you don't get absorbed in Krishna Katha, then you're obligated to CNN, Fox, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, Reuters. I don't know what else there is, but they're plentiful, and it's all saying the same stuff. It's all chatter about the material world, and you can predict what's going to happen. There's going to be good news followed by really bad news. And it just goes on and on and on. And if you look at your astrological chart, if you want to spend all the money for that, then somebody who probably doesn't know what he or she is doing anyway, Gaur Premanande, they'll look at it and they'll say, you're going to have really good luck and then it's going to go bad. You're going to be really smart, then you're going to be really stupid. And so this is back and forth in the material world. It is a source of nauseum for the living being. We're getting, nausea comes from a word that means seasickness. We're getting seasick from riding on the waves of the material world. So we could take shelter of the highest conception of God in the spiritual world, which is the personal form. And then we'll actually feel satisfied. And even as we chant his names and look at a picture of Krishna or see the deity, we'll feel satisfaction that that's where I belong. That's my eternal home. Now, if somebody would please bring a chair up here for my dear godbrother, His Grace Bhagavad Ashraya Prabhu, put it here and put another microphone stand up. Then we'll answer a few questions together. If you'll encourage him to please come up and welcome. That's it? Okay, let's see if somebody else has another question to open the conversation even wider. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please
Hare
accept
Krishna.
my humble obeisances.
Haribol.
So my question is, how does one protect oneself from the impersonal influences, especially with my profession in psychiatry and psychology? All the literature that is either atheistic or it's very impersonalistic. So so it leaves the heart very vacant if whenever one delves much deeper in the literature, and so that's my question. That how
Your question is in one sentence?
I'm sorry.
What's your question in one sentence?
So my question is, how does one protect oneself from the impersonal influences within this world?
My understanding is there's only one way, and that is to become consciously, completely dependent on Krishna in all activities. There's 2 verses in the 18th chapter where Krishna says, Cetasa savakamani mai sanyasya matpara buddhi yogam upasricha machchita satatam bhava machchita machchita savadurgani matprasadat tarishyasi atachet tvam ahankaran nashroshyasi vinangshasi. It says, in all activities, just depend upon me and work under my protection. In such devotional service, become conscious of me. If you become conscious of me, you will fully conscious of me, you will cross over all of the obstacles of material existence by my grace. If, however, you do not hear me but act out of false ego, you will be lost. And the impersonalist philosophy is the most full-blown manifestation of false ego. It is, as Prabhupada says, the last snare of Maya. So, Atta chet tvam ahankaran vinoshasi, nasroshasi vinangshasi. And then before that, Machchita sava durgani matprasada tarishasi. But it begins with consciously becoming dependent upon Krishna for everything. Because we are completely dependent upon Krishna for everything. So as we try to expand our consciousness, there are pitfalls along the way. There are traps. Because we still have the influence of false ego. False ego doesn't just vanish immediately when we become devotees. But this false ego, earlier in the 3rd chapter, Krishna says, ahankaram vimudatma. Under the influence of the false ego, we become vimudatma. We become very foolish. And all of these things that Vaisesika Prabhu was talking about before, of falling into the illusion that I'm the boss, or you're the boss, or we're all the boss, or we haven't realized that we're the boss yet, and so on. These are all things that arise because we are under the influence of the false ego. The chanting of the holy name actually dissolves the false ego, gradually dissolves the false ego away as we become consciously more and more dependent upon the chanting of the holy name. A further point is in his instructions to Sanatana Goswami, Lord Chaitanya says one thing and then he reinforces it with a verse from the Ramayana, that any person who just once, with full sincerity, bows before me and says, my Lord, from this day on, I am yours. That person I give full protection to. And as Vaisesika Prabhu was saying, we're tatasta, so we can shift. We can go deep, and then we can think we have to come back up for air again. A little bit of Maya. But the reality is there has to come a time in your life where, having brought some Krishna consciousness into your life, you have to choose then to take your life into Krishna consciousness, into full consciousness of Krishna. And as Vaisesika Prabhu was saying, Krishna has a life. A lot of people over the years, we've had crises in ISKCON where people have come forward and said, oh, Swamiji did not give you the full picture, you have to study this and do that. But if we look at the daily life that is presented in the temple, everything here that goes on from the moment that the Lord is woken up in the morning to the moment he's put to sleep at night is to do with Krishna's day. What goes on in Krishna's day. So we are gradually trying to regulate ourselves to living in Krishna's life. Not having a life of our own. That life, so-called life of our own, is the life of false ego. So there comes a point where in Roman history, there's the story of how they say there's a term that's come down from there, so called crossing the Rubicon. There was a situation where Julius Caesar had conquered all of what is now France, and he'd gathered a huge army, and he was coming back towards Italy, into Rome, and the senators didn't want him to bring his army. They actually secretly wanted to assassinate him. But they said, don't bring your army beyond the Rubicon River. And he got there, and he brought his army across the river, and there was no turning back. So there has to come a point in your life where there's no turning back. You have to turn away from Maya and not look back, and give up all desire to control anything. And just understand that we were chanting this morning. Everything is controlled and owned by the Lord. Everything. So another point in that regard also, from what Vaisesika Prabhu was saying before about, finally you have to accept that Krishna is who he says he is, and who all of the great sages say he is, and that he is a person. He is the supreme, absolute personality of Godhead, the absolute truth. And there's a warning in Bhagavad Gita in that regard, that there are many devotees. Of course, I'm sure there's none like this here, but there are many in the process of devotional service or in the practice of devotional service who assume themselves to be Krishna conscious and in devotional service. But in their heart of hearts, they don't accept that Krishna is the absolute truth. We have to come to that point in our lives where we just accept that this is the absolute truth. This is the totality of reality, that nothing exists without Krishna. Everything, therefore, is dependent. That word dependent is very nice. Can we look up dependent? Depend. From the Latin, from, pend means to hang. So, like a pendulum or a pendulous piece of jewelry off your ear, or a pending file. We all know about those files that are hanging over our heads. The inbox is never empty. So dependence means this: you just, as they say, you sling your hook and you catch a hold of Krishna's lotus feet and you just hang there. And you don't let go. Oh, goodness. I've dreamed about this. Such an honor to be here.
Dependent is relying for existence on, and it comes from Latin dependere, to hang from, hang down, be dependent on, or be derived.
And if you look up in the free dictionary in their thesaurus, there's also the concept that it depends on Krishna. Everything depends on Krishna in that everything is determined by Krishna. Yeyata mam prapadyante tangstataiva bhajamyaham. Everything. As he says, they follow my path in all respects. Even if you want to go to hell, you have to go the royal road to hell. There's no, you can't, and even the shortcut, Krishna set that up as well. Everything is determined and dependent, determined by and dependent on Krishna. And that point, I'm sorry to be repetitive, but that point of making it personal. We all have fear of our own personal, individual, spiritual identity in the early stages of devotional service. And we think Krishna's aware of everyone except me. Except me. Somehow or another, I fell through the net. Or who, me? Krishna, yes. Krishna is aware of you.
Mic to the back, please. No, you can sit there. They'll bring you the mic in 7 seconds or less, or your money back from today's class. You got 2 seconds.
Out of your own pocket. The management takes no responsibility.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhu, go ahead.
Prabhu, my question is, if everything is dependent on Krishna and he controls everything, why is there so much misery in the world? Why doesn't he give everybody love and all the good qualities?
It is love, actually. If you look in a responsible family, raising children, there's a way in which if you step into the family and you notice that the parents are giving some stern instruction to the child, some reprimand or go to your room. Anybody ever been sent to a room? That still happen? It does, huh? Yeah, I remember it as a kid. Your wife
sends me to my room all the time.
Go to your room. I can just hear my mom saying it. It's a samskar. So go to your room. It's like, dang, okay, well, I'm in my room now. So is that love? Is that a form of love? There's a way in which a parent has the responsibility to bring the child to maturity. If you just say to the child, I'll give you everything, the child won't be able to take it. You get what's called a spoiled child. Child comes in last and it's like, no, you actually won. You won. Although you didn't study for the test and you failed, it's like, no, you actually passed. This is kind of a modern technique some people have taken up. And there's sociological proof that it actually spoils the child to beyond repair practically. There's a whole generation of people who subscribe to this idea. It's like, it's all good. Whatever your truth is, that's just fine. You do whatever you feel, and we'll still reward you. There's no growth in that. However, when there's a good definition of what's right and wrong, and then the child learns by, okay, I touched this, and this was the consequence. I learned all these things. And then the child comes to maturity. So those who become unhinged, or as the Tatastha Jiva can do, enter into the dark forest of material enjoyment and become lost. There's a way in which Krishna's helping us out of love to come back to this position that Bhagavad Ashraya Prabhu was speaking about, which is to come to that momentous time in which I say, that's it, no more, no mas. I'm turning my back on the material world, I'm going back to the spiritual world. And unless we make that decision ourselves, through the special training that Krishna lovingly gives us by giving us parameters in the material world, you touch this, this is the result. Why don't we let everyone just drive on the left side of the 101 freeway? So how come I can't drive on the left side of the 101 freeway? Anybody have any idea?
I saw someone doing it the other night.
Well, if you're in India, you see it all the time. It's like, why is there a tractor coming towards me now? Followed by a camel cart? It's like, I thought we were going on the left side here. So there's a way in which there is actual reality, and Krishna's bringing us very lovingly to that point. And to come to that moment when we make our own choice, he's waiting for us, and he's also set up the world in such a way that we can make that decision. And nobody else can make it but us. That's called love. When you actually decide independently that I'm going to surrender to Krishna, that's your choice. That changes the universe. That's why when we see devotees, for instance, who take initiation and they make a vow, that's like the most exciting program anybody can watch, because you're actually going to do this? You're entering in here and you're going to say it out loud that I'm dedicating my life to Krishna. And that's just the beginning. Because as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Raga Dvesha Vimuktaistu Vishayan Indriyaishcharan Atmavasharavate Atma Prasadam Arigachati. That if you follow the rules that I've set up, the guidelines, drive on the right side, not on the left, etc., and you just follow this path that I've given you carefully, strictly, you'll come to receive the full grace, my full grace, prasadam arigachati, that will descend to you naturally. It's always available to us. What you're mentioning, why doesn't Krishna give us this or that? He's pouring it on us. The problem is with me. I don't have the capacity to take it because I'm so self-absorbed. I'm a spoiled little brat. And therefore, like, meh. Why don't this? Why don't that? But he says, follow this process and you'll come to realize how gracious and abundant is the mercy that I'm providing. And then we come to full knowledge, and we have this full intention of serving Krishna, and then we actually cross the Rubicon and come to that point of loving service. And we did it. And last point, if Krishna didn't give us full choice to take the wrong thing, that's no choice at all. And when Gandhi was moving forward with his freedom movement, the British said, like, you guys can't manage this. Because only we British can manage things. And Gandhi said, freedom means the ability to do the wrong thing. You have to give that. So that's what Krishna gives to the living entity, freedom to do the wrong thing, until we come to the point of saying, no mas. I just want Krishna, I'm going to surrender. Then there's love. Love can't be forced. Just try it. I mean, don't try it. But if you try to force somebody to love you, it's like, no, love me, love me. There's lots of movies about that. It's like, you don't love me anymore? How come? Come on, bring a sign up. You just... it's unseemly, actually. But when there's a natural process through which the person comes to full realization and gives his or her heart to Krishna, then everything's available. Prabhu?
In the back.
Maharaj, my question is related to fear. In this material world, we experience a lot of fear. There is fear of unknown, there is fear of future, there is fear of past. Fear of being rejected by somebody whom you expect them to love you. And, there are so many phobias, stage fear, fear of heights, on and on and on. It goes on. My question is, as a practicing devotee, can we ever overcome this fear and, completely get rid of the fear from this material body when you are in this material world?
I defer to my esteemed godbrother, who I find to be fearless, walking in this world.
I was afraid you were going to ask me that.
We'll be here all week.
We didn't rehearse this either. No. It's a very interesting phenomenon in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the second canto, we find, just at the end of the first canto, Sukadeva Goswami arrives on the scene. And then the second canto begins with him answering Parikshit Maharaj's question, is what should one do when he is on the threshold of death? And with a little bit of preamble, he says, I'm going to recite the Srimad Bhagavatam to you. And then there's a very interesting verse that just pops up there. Itanya vidyavananam ichatam akuto bayam yoginam nripaninitam harinam anokirtanam. And he says there that the doubtless and fearless way for all, whether one be possessed of all material desires, whether one be a yogi or whether one be a self-satisfied personality, the doubtless and fearless way for all of these people is to chant the holy name after the ways of the great authorities. Akuto bayam, doubtless and fearless. So, again, like I was saying before, false ego doesn't disappear immediately. And fear of things doesn't disappear immediately. And having said that, we can actually engage that fear to our advantage. Prabhupada used to say the problem with my disciples is that they're not afraid enough of Maya. So underneath all of this is what should, and also in regard to the previous question, is the issue that Srila Prabhupada points to again and again in his teachings, where he says, due to a poor fund of knowledge. Due to a poor fund of knowledge. And then in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 4.9, who knows 4.9? Janma kama chamedevyam evam yoga. Everybody knows it, come on. Everybody knows it. Just by understanding the transcendental nature of Krishna's birth and his appearance, his activities in this world, one does not, upon leaving this material body, have to take birth again in the material world. Everybody knows it, yes? What's the next verse? Yes. Vita raga bhaya krodha. Vita raga bhaya krodha. Becoming completely free from attachment, fear, and anger. Many, many persons in the past, through cultivation of knowledge of me, have attained love for me. So knowledge is acquisition of knowledge. Full knowledge. Just like this question about why is there so much suffering in the world? You can counter that by saying, well, why are you here? Underneath all of this, we have a poor fund of knowledge because we don't understand, we don't know that the material world is not everything. We've forgotten that. But as I said, you weren't here earlier, I said forgetfulness and remembrance are predicated on knowledge. If you don't know something, how can you forget it? Or how can you remember it? Just like there was a controversy in ISKCON many years ago about the fact that we've never been, about the proposition that actually we've been eternally in Maya. We're eternally conditioned souls. We've never been with Krishna. But how do you go back somewhere you've never been? And this whole movement is for going back to Godhead. So as we gain knowledge of transcendence, of our own transcendental nature, and of the nature of the transcendental world, and we gain confidence in this reality by the process, as I said in my first little rant, by the process of developing actual dependence on Krishna, actually depending on Krishna. Then you don't necessarily see it straight away or feel it straight away, but it's like when you start off in the car, you're gaining momentum, then you're out on the freeway and you're cruising. And you lose the sense of how fast you're going. But then suddenly there'll be somebody going slower in the lane ahead of you and you realize, oh my God. So Krishna is very kind. It's not that this process of Krishna consciousness is something that somebody dreamed up to give you a hard time with. I said this one time, and just think that pole, right? Say somebody greased that pole up and then said, now climb it. Another thing Srila Prabhupada says very often is Krishna is very much anxious for you to come back to him. And this Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, all of the books that Srila Prabhupada presented to us, the whole of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, all the 7 purposes, this is all a gesture of love from the Lord. Here, just take it. Take it. But we hesitate and we look around and think, yes, what about this? What about that? What about the other? Krishna says, just surrender to me. I will deliver you from all of your sinful reactions. And that's where all of our fear comes from. The fear of pain and suffering in this material world. Fear that I'll be killed, fear, all of these things. And that's all just because we're entangled under the laws of karma. We're entangled in the interaction of the 3 modes of material nature. And we have no knowledge of anything beyond, especially in the world today. This is the Kali Yuga. This knowledge is practically lost. But thanks to Srila Prabhupada, and only Srila Prabhupada, it's all now being made available to anybody and everybody. And as soon as a sincere person, a sincere seeker of truth, hears this philosophy, it penetrates the heart. And initially you feel totally fearless. Yes! Like just the big yes. Aha! This is it. I remember sitting up in bed reading Bhagavad Gita at 2 o'clock in the morning. First off, couldn't make sense of the first chapter. And then Krishna starts to speak in the second chapter. And the first thing he describes is what you are. This is the beauty of, I think the most beautiful thing of Bhagavad Gita. If you take Bhagavad Gita as religious scripture, put it in that kind of categorization, and you put against it other religious scriptures, all other religious scriptures that you can think of begin with the description of the greatness of God, the almighty nature of God, the creator of heaven and earth, and this fearsome person. But Bhagavad Gita begins with a human being in a perplexed situation. And when Arjuna surrenders to Krishna and says, I'm confused, I'm bewildered here, I've lost them. I mean, there's 26 verses there spanning first and second chapter where Arjuna, this mighty warrior, goes through a total meltdown. And then he turns to Krishna and he surrenders to Krishna. Now you coming from Indian culture and so forth, you know, we know who Krishna is. But you think of a person picking up that Bhagavad Gita and starting to read it, and then this personality of Krishna is there. You don't really know who he is to start with. But he starts talking a lot of sense to you right from the beginning. And I was sitting there reading this, and I was brought up to believe I had a soul. But that really doesn't answer the question, well, who am I? I've got a refrigerator as well, but I'm not, or there's another philosophy that if you act in the right way, you will develop a soul. Yeah. And I remember sitting there just reading those verses, and then suddenly the lights went on. Oh, I'm the soul. I'm this thing that Krishna's talking about. There's never a time when I didn't exist. There will never be a time when I don't exist. Nothing can kill me. Nothing can hurt me. Nothing. There's the beginning of fearlessness. Back to 14, through knowledge of me. Through real knowledge. Cultivate real knowledge. And real knowledge is not just, as Prabhupada said, armchair philosophy. Vishaya vinivatante niraharasya dehna rasapyasyam rasopyasya param dristva nivatate. This is experiential. It's personal and it's experiential. Mm-hmm. So you have to have the courage to approach Krishna one-to-one. You come and like I said, you come and you present yourself to Krishna. Here I am, my Lord. Please protect me. Please engage me in your service. Then this wonderful journey begins. Wonderful journey, yes? And it just gets better and better and better as time goes by. In the beginning, Maya will do all kinds of, the beginnings, you always consider yourself at the beginning because be afraid of Maya. She can get you at any time, especially when you think you've made it. Yeah. But take shelter. Take shelter. I'll just end with one little story about that. I believe this happened in Atlanta when Srila Prabhupada installed the Gaur-Nitai deities in Atlanta. And the next morning, he came in from his morning walk to greet the deities, and he stood for an inordinate amount of time in front of Gaur-Nitai. And he was obviously praying to them. And in his room, after the morning program, one devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, you were obviously praying very fervently to Gaur-Nitai this morning. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes. Yes. And so the devotee said, well, would you mind telling us what you were praying? I mean, we only do this kind of stuff when we're young. I couldn't imagine saying that to Prabhupada now. And Srila Prabhupada said, I was praying to Gaurnitai that I never fall into Maya. And then the devotee said, smart Alex says, but Srila Prabhupada, isn't it a fact that a pure devotee never falls into Maya? And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, because he's always praying to Gaurnitai that he never fall into Maya. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is the path of doubtlessness and fearlessness, but it's a practice and it grows. Therefore, you must stay in the association of the devotees. You must. Because as soon as you step out, it's all raging out there. It's all going on. Anyway, that's enough. Thank you.
Rasa Sindhu Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Bhagavatasha Prabhu Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for being here. My question is that how do we increase our capacity to give? And how do we increase our capacity to give and serve? And the reason I'm asking this question is because earlier this week there was some of my friends are going through a really tough time, and I created space for them. I heard them out, and then they came up to me because they were going through this tough time. And after hearing them out, the next day I became depressed just because of the situation. It was overwhelming, and I had zero motivation to engage with my daily activities just because it was so overwhelming and overburdening. And I want to serve, show up for these people and be there. But at the same time, I want to guard and protect what's happening and my practices. So I'm not sure, Prabhu. I feel kind of stuck in some sense that how do I increase this capacity to give and create space even for people who are non-devotees per se. They are my work colleagues, and Krishna consciousness may not be a viable immediate remedy or solution to their needs. So what is the solution for a devotee to be in this situation, and what can I do, Prabhu? Thank you.
In the practice of Krishna consciousness, as Bhagavad-ashraya Prabhu was so eloquently describing, there's actual life that one lives, a life that one lives. Vidyam cha yas tadvedopayam saha avidyayam ratum tirtva vidyayam ratum ashnute. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. It's an integrated process. And if one is keeping good association, as Bhagavad-ashraya Prabhu is recommending, and we continue the process, Vrindasevika this morning was saying, if you sponge in the holy name in your japa in the morning, then there's no room for anything else later. Even though we will feel at some times overwhelmed by the circumstances and association and find ourselves even like existentially, temporarily estranged from Krishna consciousness, we're kind of on the outside looking in and we go like, wait, what? Why am I doing this again? And that's not a bad thing. Actually, that's another opportunity to reinforce the process. And that's why it is a process. It's a daily process because it's expected that you're going to live your life. You can't do otherwise. There is no retreat from your duties in the material world, and they're going to be onerous. And your association is also going to be onerous too, because different kinds of people come in your life, and you can't get away from it, can you? 52 cousins? If you move back, of course, you're going to move to Silicon Valley and get a respite. But there's growth in that. And the way that is most recommended to overcome these particular situations where you feel suddenly depleted because of association is to already have your network of guidance in place. This is highly recommended. Guya makyati prishati. You should have the association of those that you trust implicitly, that you know their foundation is strong, they're in your upline. And you can go to them as much as you wish, daily if you need to, and say, look I'm fried. What should I do now? And why are you fried? Let's talk about it. And in the process of doing that, that's where maturity takes place. That's actually how, by these little victories, one after another, after the initial period Bhagavad Ashraya was speaking about, where, this is it, I'm in all the way. And then you go like, okay, now there's a journey to take. And along that journey, it's a crucible, which is a way that gold is purified. You put gold with, maybe it's mixed with other things in this extremely hot environment, and then the pure gold runs out, the impurities go the other way. So in these tests, we get the benefit of looking at ourselves and saying, again, why am I doing this? And then taking shelter of those who know why we're doing it. They're in a higher rung of the ladder, and they can say, okay, come up here, you're going to be okay. And then you come back with realized knowledge. And unless you live life and you apply Krishna consciousness, you don't get realized knowledge. It's armchair stuff. It's like, yes, yes, and then I need a beedi, because you know what a beedi is? Most people don't. Need a cigarette on the side or some, but actually we get the real thing by living life, but then getting reinforced by those who are on a higher level of Krishna consciousness. So get a Rolodex and fill it up with mentors, and keep taking shelter of mentors. And you may have mentors for various particular situations that you need them for. Last word to Bhagavad Ashraya Prabhu, because we have to end in about 5 minutes.
Now, I'm thinking about like a little child, when we're little children, when we, first of all we learn to roll onto our stomach and then wriggle around, and then we find out these things start to work a little, and then we're crawling, and then we want to stand up, and you always fall flat on your face. Yes? And that hurts, but you didn't stay down. And the same thing that hurt you put your hands on it and push yourself back on your feet. So inherent in this is the concept of failure. Just because you may fail at something or fail in a given situation, it doesn't mean you're a failure. That's a very different thing. Even mundane motivational people and so forth, they'll tell you that even in all material endeavors, people who succeed are people who actually fail more than anyone else, but they don't give up. So the fail-safe way is exactly what Vaisesika Prabhu is saying. You have a network of support, and you don't put yourself out on a limb on your own. Actually, ever. This is again the most wonderful thing about Srila Prabhupada, is that he put himself on the line, on his own and had complete faith in Krishna, depended completely on Krishna. We can't necessarily do that. Necessarily, we can't do that. And as time goes by, that's shown. What an exceptional... Of course, all devotees are exceptional people. Exceptional is the beginning. But amongst the most exceptional devotees, somebody like Srila Prabhupada will come along. And he created a situation for us to live in. And as Vaisesika is saying, you've got to live in the world, so live in the world in this Sangha. And don't ever leave it. You know? Don't ever leave it. There's another little story about Prabhupada where he said, one little old man, all on his own, if they had known why I was coming, they would never have let me in. And then he said, but I have lit a fire, and they can never put it out. So don't ever be fooled to think that I got nowhere to go. I got no one to turn to. Hmm? Yes. Hare Krishna. Oh. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhagavad Ashraya Prabhu, for coming here and filling us up with the vibration that's so deep, because it's what's in your heart from your loyalty to Srila Prabhupada over 5 decades of practice of devotional service, and it's apparent the way you move in the world, the way you have no envy of other devotees, and the way that you speak so articulately about the process of devotional service, all backed up by the Shastra. Anyone who wants him to come back more, please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna! And now we have a couple of announcements, and we'll start with the Bhakti community to see what's going on in this ever-expanding universe of Krishna Katha, an association headed by Jai Madhava Prabhu and Pavani Bhakti. Please come up. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Thank you for the wonderful association. I'm totally in tears after hearing you, it was so good, everything you spoke. Thank you for giving us your association. And just to, for Bhagavad Ashraya Prabhu, just letting him know that Bhakti community is a community Vaisesika Prabhu started because we
Somebody wants to join.
We give so many books to a lot of newcomers, and it's a program where we are bridging these newcomers, bringing them to the temple. It's an environment we provide so that they get devotee association. We call it Vaishnava Sangha. And we measure ourselves by the moments of association we give to the newcomers. So Bhakti community gives that environment and that forum for the newcomers who get books anywhere under the universe where our devotees go. So I have today with me Vicky from Bhakti community who's joined us. Just want to welcome her back. She was she went to Dubai for 6 months, and she was very much in separation. And Tim, who is her partner, he's online, And he was telling us that he survived when Prabhu was telling about we are all hanging in there and we should hang to the lotus feet of Krishna like the pendulum. He was hanging in with our devotees, and mainly Kautukarna Prabhu was helping him out, and he was like in the separation with Vicky. He was hanging in here with devotees, and that was so beautiful that the community provided that environment and all the people in the community. And Vicky is back here. She's started attending the programs. I almost feel like when Vicky started, we were more, she was like just one more participant. Then she came to the temple, then she became like closer and closer. She became a friend, and now I almost feel like she's my sister. And I feel like the community is doing all this for newcomers, and we all play a big role to give that support system to the community. And I thank everyone in the temple and in the community for helping the newcomers. I just want to give a usual drill of our programs that we did this week. We have a lot of programs and a good combination of programs, and almost we feel like it's a combo package. Yeah, I just want to get my notes. Some of the programs we did this week, we are doing affirmation series, which Vaisesika Prabhu leads every Monday, and this week we spoke about an affirmation, which is, I look for and appreciate the good qualities in others. So you can imagine what a beautiful topic it would have been. A lot of newcomers come to this program, and we associate them with Bhakti and our participants and Vaisesika Prabhu. So it was really good. Then on Bhakti Circle, we did a topic called Karma, Free Will and Destiny. So a lot of participants, they went into Zoom breakout rooms, discussed. We had a very beautiful icebreaker this time where we have to talk about a day in a life of yourself. So we learned a lot about everyone in that circle and deep topics on karma. For our corporate audience, we again continued the karma topic, and we spoke about cancel your karma. A lot of corporate audience from Amazon, Google, Intel, all over the place, people joined that program. Then on the women's circle last week, we did that. We learned about consciousness that can free us from envy. So it was a very beautiful topic attended by a lot of women. This week on the women's circle, we are restarting our Bhagavad Gita series. So if you know anybody who's interested to do formally Bhagavad Gita in a very nice, simplified way, we do nice presentations and we also read from Bhagavad Gita. So that's restarting this Sunday. We are also doing Japa Circle every morning from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Participants are attending. Some of them are very regularly attending and now started to lead even our circle, some of the newcomers. So it's really a growing community, and some of us are even traveling to Sadhu Sangha together. So this is a great achievement in my opinion, because going to Sadhu Sangha is once in a lifetime event and very transformative, and hoping that the participants who are coming with us to Sadhu Sangha will have that experience and enrichment. So we pray for everyone's blessings that we continue to do our services, and we look forward to anybody else who is interested to join the community and help us out. Hare Krishna.
Sadhu, sadhu. And now we invite Malini Devi Dasi, our co-Sankirtan leader for Team ISV, the top team, not just in North America, but in most of the world.
Thank you, Prabhu, and thank you, Bhagavad-Ashra Prabhu, for coming and blessing us with your association. So, just very excited to announce that today is our first day, our first weekend for our Bhakti Vinod Thakur Monthly Sankirtan Festival. This is the Ambassador of Goodwill. So generally for every MSF, we have goals of books or some Lakshmi or something like that. But for Bhaktivinoda Thakur's monthly Sankirtan festival, our focus has always been how many devotees can participate. And this MSF, we have a goal of at least 300 devotees participating in book distribution. The goal is to touch the pavement, but if you want to just go beyond, we want to see if those 300 devotees can distribute at least one Srimad Bhagavatam set.
Haribol! I mean, each of them, right? Each of them do one Bhagavatam set.
Each of them can do at least one Bhagavatam set. So, at least one Bhagavatam. And it's not that it is not doable. As Prabhu was mentioning, that we have to be fearless. All we have to do is hang around the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and pray that you can distribute at least one set of Srimad Bhagavatam. And last year, devotees have done it. So we want to request everyone to participate in this, at least 200 devotees, and maybe internally maybe 500 devotees, I don't know. So on that note, we are going to start today. And today we have multiple spots where we are going out for book distribution. And I'll start with the Bhagavatam one, and then maybe Katha Prabhu, you can explain the Western spots. One spot we're going today is there is a festival in Fremont organized by Little Krishna Kids. And this is as a fundraiser for the devotees in Ukraine, for the people in Ukraine, how we can help out. So His Grace Bali Mardan Prabhu and Ananda Vrindavan Mataji, they have arranged for a festival, Little Krishna Kids in Fremont. And Mataji said that we can have a table there set up to distribute Bhagavatam sets if the people who come there can get one. And then we have one in Cupertino, one in Tri-Valley, that is in Dublin, Pleasanton, and San Ramon. We go out door to door to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam sets. And one team, in the kids team, going to Dianza. Yes, Dianza, Cupertino. It's a India cash and carry. It seems like a small table. There are only a few kids and distributing books. I saw the other day they collected like $600 or $700 in just 2 hours. So it seems like it's small, but it is not. So please join. Raseshwari Leela will lead that team. And there is one kids team, like a small table like that in Pleasanton as well, led by Harikatha Mataji. So please let her know if you're joining. And Katha Prabhu, would you like to please come up and announce the Western spots?
Hare Krishna. As usual, we cover all the spots, Western Sankirtan spots on the street. So we'll go to San Francisco. There's a festival in Fremont. There's a lot of art and wine festivals, so we try to cover them, give them the real intoxicant. As Prabhupada says, stay high forever. So we want to give them real thing. So there's one festival in Fremont. Other team is going to Santa Cruz. And we might have one more team for Muir Woods. If you like to join, please let us know. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Since we'll not do an announcement next week, everybody's going to Sadhu Sangha. We have a traveling Sankirtan party going to Utah, Salt Lake City. And we are packing books, Bhagavatam sets, one van full of books. And Katha Prabhu and his team is going there. And we will have a table at Sadhu Sangha to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam sets. So please join us there also if you would like to. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, I forgot to mention, we have a Spanish Bhakti community called Comunidad Bhakti. And I see Prema and Premi are here today, and they had a completion of the Bhakti Circle program that they do. And I just want to ask them if they would like to share. There was a lot of beautiful realizations that came out. So if you don't mind, can you both share something about it?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept our humble obeisance, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to all of you. Yes, last Tuesday we have that program that like conclude with the 32 weeks of videos and Bhakti Circle in Spanish for devotees in Latin America, and was wonderful. Vaisesika Maharaj came and all the people there were like very, very happy. I see now in by Zoom there is one Bhaktin Franca is here. She's from Comunidad Bhakti and she attended that day and she's very, very happy and very enthusiastic with all this association and Maharaj talk. And yeah, Premi.
Yes. Thank you. First of all, thank you for the wonderful lesson of today. It was wonderful to see you both together talking about Krishna and Prabhupada. So nice, so inspiring, so fortunate, all of us. And I'm so happy that Franca is here also, is part of the team. And it was wonderful because Vaisesika Maharaj gave us and all the group his realization, inspiration, and the impact was incredible, amazing. So we pray a lot to have again that incredible association.
Thank you, Pavani.
You so
Thank you, Jai Madhava, for giving us the opportunity and to support.
Prabhu, could you introduce our new guests who came from Harinam last night? A microphone. Or whoever. Yes, please, Shamalangi.
So we met Priyank and Aishwarya yesterday at the Harinam. So they were just watching from behind, and I could see, like, I could make out that they really like it. So I kind of spoke to them. And he works in Google. They have been in the States like last 10 months. And they said, we'll come tomorrow. So I said, okay, they asked what time the program starts. I said, it's quite early. So you come by 9:30, however. And they said yes. But I saw they were at 7:15 doing the Aarti. So we're very happy to have them. And they live nearby, so we are hoping they'll come more often and, be with us here.
You're sitting next to Vaisesika, and same thing happened to her. Same place. She walked down the street, heard the Harinam. Next day, she was in the temple. Never left. Always in that seat right there. Okay. So, thank you everyone for attending the morning program. And now, for your enjoyment, we have a major motion picture that's going to be presented, if I'm not incorrect. Rajeshwari Leela, is that right? Okay. We're going to reposition. Should we? It's just on the screen, right? Either way. Okay. There is prasadam, by the way.
Hare Krishna, today's prasadam was cooked by Hansa Priya Mataji.
Haribo!
Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare Krishna, Bhagavatashree Prabhu. Thank you so much for gracing us and your association. I was following all along this morning on Zoom. The next part of the program is our ISV Kids Vedic Academy Annual Day celebrations. So we have more than 100 children, our congregation devotee children. We have also been through a lot of ups and downs in the last 2 years due to the pandemic. The children are aged from 0 to 17 years. We had online classes, and then we moved to in-person classes sometime in February for the older children who were vaccinated, and we were just trying to follow all guidelines as per our authorities. So today we are doing part of the annual day celebrations for our Gopal class, which is a special kids, special education kids, as well as Damodar class, 3 to 5 years. Their presentation is actually online, and we will be broadcasting it. And I want to also mention tomorrow it will be the continuation of this program starting at 1 p.m. here in the temple hall. We will continue with the older children who will perform in person. The Gopinath class, 6 to 8 years, Madan Mohan class, 9 to 11 years, and Kaishura class, 12 to 14 years. So with that, I take permission from all the senior Vaishnavas, Srila Prabhupada, and Shri Radha Madan Mohan Mahaprabhu, and Shri Lakshmi Narasimhadev to please allow us to serve them. We will be broadcasting beginning with the Gopal class.
Just one quick question, if we're going to hear from the devotees that are 0 years old. You said from 0 to 17? How old are you? 0?
Yeah, the 0 to 2 years is our Kanha class. And we did not do a class for them this semester because it was not healthy for them to do online classes. But they will be back next semester, in person performing. So.
Priya Gua Vinivendita Padaram Titi Shalitan Vedupararam Patwa Jamuka Mandakarama Chitakucha Tri Niketanarama
Vasalata Sattata Siddhitalava Taike Italaya Pitalava Vilasitaria Kalvakalava Balatva Tita Vidyapadukalava.
Louder.
Nantu Majade Masasanta Pushta Ashwatamura Juirutamura Asanka Jastraina Jitariya Chitwa Kada Padamta Marima Kipatiyam Yasmin Gatana Yavatanti Puya Tameva Jatyam Purusam Prapatye Yata Praviti Prashrita Purani Namoha Chitta Dosha Adi Atyatma Nitya Vinivedita Kama Dvanvaya Vimukta Sukadukka Sanyaya Gachanti Yamuda Padamavyayam Tat.
So thank you so much. As you can see, these are special education children. I really want to thank Sukeshwari Mataji, who actually formed this class, and Uttara Mataji and Sirisha Mataji for helping out with arts and crafts. All these teachers are also online, and I would like to request if Sukeshwari Mataji can say a few words.
Thank you so much, Vaisesika Leela. Hare Krishna, Bhagata Ashya Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Vaisesika Prabhu. We've had a wonderful semester with these kids. As you see that most of the children have difficulty talking because of their various disabilities, but we've seen in the past a few years that they've started learning Bhagavad Gita shlokas and the songs. They've really, those kids who are not able to talk are talking now. Those kids whose articulation was not very clear are able to articulate very well. So we can see the effects of the scriptures and reciting the mantras and chanting has very much helped. I really want to thank Uttara Mataji for also being a wonderful teacher. She taught them all the stories, and Sirisha Mataji for helping them with beautiful crafts. Thank you so much. Thank you, Raseshwari. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. I would like to now go on to the next class, which is the Damodar class. We have our Damodar student here, Kunjari. So the Damodar class was led by Mukta Mataji and helped by Premlata Mataji and crafts by Brajvilasni Mataji and Matangi Mataji. We will now go ahead and see their presentation, and then we can have a few words from you, Mukta.
In the Treta Yuga, Lord Krishna appeared as Lord Rama, the son of King Dasa, with his 3 brothers, Bharat, Shatrughna, and Lakshman. King Dashrath had 3 queens, Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, Sumitra. King Dashrath was a great king who was loved by all the residents in Ayodhya. King Dashrath was getting too old to rule the kingdom. However, and decided it was time to turn over the title of king to his eldest son, Lord Rama. Everyone was happy except the old Manthara went to Kaikeyi. One of the Shirama's wife had an evil plan. I asked Kaikeyi, "Do you remember when your husband was sick? You took care of him and the king gave you promise to give you 2 boons. Now it's the time to take it. You should make your husband to make Bharat the king. That is your first boon." Kaikeyi said, "What is the next boon?" Manthara said, "The next boon is to make ban Ram to the forest for 14 years. King Dashrath was bound by his promise. You tell Rama to go to forest for 14 years. Rama was a obedient son and he was a good boy. So he immediately went to forest with Lakshman and Sita. After arriving in Panchvati, Lakshman built a cottage for Ram and Sita. A she-demon came to Rama's cottage. She was the sister of the 10-headed demon Ravana, the king of Lanka. Her name was Surpnika. Surpnika was terribly ugly, but she used her powers to take a form of a pretty girl. marry him. She asked Rama for marriage. Rama said, "So I'm so sorry, I cannot accept your offer, or I'm already married. See my wife Sita here. If you want, you can go marry my brother Lakshman."
Oh, you are right, Shurpanakha said. "Come and marry me, Lakshman." Rama and Lakshmana laughed, causing Shurpanakha to get angry. Suddenly, Shurpanakha attacked Sita. Lakshmana quickly drew his sword and cut off her nose and ears.
Shurpanakha rushed to her elder brother Ravana. Ravana was a 10-headed demon king of the golden city of Lanka. Ravana was very cruel and struck fear in the hearts of all living beings. "My dear sister," Ravana said, "who has cut off her nose and ears? I must avenge this insult." Shurpanakha narrated the whole story to Ravana and told him about the killing of her two brothers, Khara and Dushna. And she also told Ravana about Sita, who is very beautiful. Sita is very beautiful.
And the more powerful king in the universe, fear not, dear sister, waiting help for marriage and together within ground, within Sita way. And we're going to make vow. Vow when to see marriage, I could make not Sita. And together is going to Ram cottage.
Marsa used his magic to make a beautiful golden deer. He roamed around the forest to get Sita's attention. Sita had never seen such a beautiful golden deer. Sita said, "Can I have it as my pet? Can you please catch it for me?"
Ram, give me off this animal, Lakshmana said. "It's too beautiful to be true. It must be a trick of a demon." "Lakshmana, do not fear," Ram said. "I will bring it down in the bow. You protect Sita. Do not leave her in forest." Ram went far away to catch the deer. Maricha imitated Rama's voice and cried for help.
"Lakshmana, help me!" Maricha yelled with Rama's voice. Sita heard that voice and said to Lakshmana, "Help Rama." He said, "Don't worry. Rama can kill any beast or any demon. It sounds like a demon trick."
With her sweat, Sita convinced Lakshmana to go immediately into the forest to find Ram. Lakshmana felt he had no choice but to leave Sita alone. Before he left, he drew a magical circle around the cottage. Lakshmana said, "Do not cross this magical circle around under any circumstance." And Lakshmana went to see Ram. This was the moment Ravana had been waiting for. Ravana disguised as a holy man and begged for some food from Sita. Pretending to be old and weak, Ravana tricked Sita to cross the protective circle.
As soon as Sita came out, Ravan revealed his real identity and forcibly took Sita into his flying chariot. Sita was yelling, "Please leave me! Please leave me! If you harm me, Rama will destroy you and your whole demon army." Jatayu, Rama's old friend, heard Sita crying for help. Jatayu flew towards Ravana on his chariot and scratched Ravana with his sharp claws. Ravana got angry and chopped the wings of Jatayu.
While in the air with Ravana, Sita saw Sugriva, the king of the monkeys, Sugriva, and chief minister Hanuman. Sita threw some jewels in the direction, hoping they would deliver to Lord Rama.
Meanwhile, Rama and Lakshmana arrived at the empty cottage. They couldn't see Sita anywhere. Rama and Lakshmana searched the forest. They discovered their old friend Jatayu, wounded on the ground. Jatayu told the whole story about Sita and left his body, chanting the name of Rama. Showed the ornaments that Sita had dropped in his direction as she was being carried away by Ravana. Sugriva and Hanuman promised to help Rama find Sita. Rama felt sure that Hanuman, a great monkey warrior, would meet with success. Rama gave his ring as a sign to show Sita that he was a messenger of Rama. Hanuman grew to enormous size. With a great leap, he soared through the air until he reached Lanka.
Hanuman used his power to make him very, very small, and he looked every house and garden, and he could not find Sita, and he finally entered the most beautiful garden, and he found Sita crying.
Hanuman showed the ring of Lord Rama and told that he is a messenger of Rama. Sita became joyful and gave her jewel to show to Rama.
Hanuman rushed and rushed to show the jewel that Sita had given to Lord Rama. Rama quickly made the plan to rescue her from the evil Ravana. He gathered all the monkey soldiers together and marched towards the ocean. He arrived at the ocean shore. He says, gather rocks and boulders and then build a bridge. Rama told the monkeys, build a bridge.
The bridge reached the shore of Lanka. Hanuman and the entire monkey army crossed the ocean.
A fierce battle began between the monkeys and the demons. Rama and Lakshmana killed many demon soldiers. Ravana killed thousands of monkey soldiers. Finally, he faced Rama. Rama shot many arrows at Ravana, but none killed him. Rama shot one more arrow which entered the heart of Ravana. This was the end of Ravana. Rama was united with Sita. They were very happy to see each other once again. They flew home to Ayodhya in a golden airplane. All of the residents welcomed Rama, Sita and Lakshman.
So as you can see, these are actually 20 children. It's not a small class. So we're very grateful to our teachers, Mukta Mataji and Premlata Mataji, as well as Brajavlasni Mataji and Matangi Mataji. As part of the curriculum, there is also music. Every class also experiences learning, music related to Sri Ram or Sri Krishna, Gaudiya Vaishnava bhajans. So the Damodar class learned a bhajan. Since the theme is all about Ramayana, they learned bhajan about Sri Ram. So we can play that, and that is our last presentation for today.
Hare Krishna. Sri Ram, 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 Ram. Sri Ram, 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 Ram. Dasa Ram, 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 Ram. Dasa Kamal Dana Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Dasharatha Nandana Ram 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 Dasharatha Nandana Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Dasharatha Nandana Ram 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 Dashamukha Mardana Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Ananta Rakshaka Ram 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 Apad Pandava Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Ananta Rakshaka Ram 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 Apad Pandava Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Ananta Rakshaka Ram 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 Apad Pandava Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Ananta Rakshaka Ram 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 Apad Pandava Ram 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 Ananta Rakshaka Ram 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 Apad Pandava Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Lakshmana Sevita Ram 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 Lakshmi Manohara Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Lakshmana Sevita Ram 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 Lakshmi Manohara Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Lakshmana Sevita Ram 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 Lakshmi Manohara Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Pashupati Ranjana Ram 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 Papa Vimochana Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Sri Ram 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 Pashupati Ranjana Ram 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 Papa Vimochana Ram 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 Martin Fiddlesy Ram 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 Marathi Pandita Ram Ram Ram. Sri Ram 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 Ram. Sri Ram 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 Ram. Sri Ram 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 Ram. Sri Ram 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 Ram. Maithili Pata Shri Ram Ram Ram. Maruti Vandita Ram Ram Ram. Shri Ram 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 Ram. Shri Ram 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 Ram. Maithili Pata Shri Ram Ram Ram. Maruti Sevata Ram Ram Ram. Shri Ram 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 Ram. Shri Ram 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 Ram.
Thank you all for your encouragement. It takes a lot, it takes a village to raise every child. We have some of the students present here. If you can just stand up to show yourself, the Damodar children. So, also thanks to Keshav for supporting Mukta Mataji in creating this video. Good job, Keshav. So, really want to appreciate Mukta Mataji, if you'd like to come here and say a few words. Your experience and the sacrifices it takes to educate the children online is even more difficult. To put together this video actually it takes hours and hours of planning, and of course by the parents and the teachers, and of course by the desire of our senior devotees like His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu, Her Grace Nirakula Mataji, and of course Guru Parampara. So over to you, Mukta Mataji, for sharing your realization.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So thank you. Thank you so much for appreciating the performance. So these 2 years was like really unusual. Everything was online, and as you saw, like Damodar kids are like really small kids, just 3 to 5 years, and we were thinking like how they will see it in the class, how they will listen to the stories. But yeah, they did like really very good job, and I would like to thank all the parents for supporting us and always being there with the kids for the class. And thank you so much all the kids who has done very good job for this recording the videos and sending it to us. And they were like really very patient in throughout the classes, and they were enthusiastic to learn the crafts, arts, all the songs and listening to the stories. So thank you so much, and I would like to thank Raseshwari Mataji and Sukeshwari Mataji for giving us the opportunity to teach these young kids. So thank you so much.
Is Premlata Mataji online? If Premlata Mataji are online, yes, okay. So Premlata Mataji, I want you to say a line or two also, sharing your experience for all the hard work that you put in for teaching them the bhajan.
I would like to thank everyone, the Sunday school, all Raseshwari Mataji, Sukeshwari Mataji, and everyone, and also especially thank Vaisesika Prabhuji for giving this opportunity. I really liked teaching all the young kids, and especially the song, teaching them the Ram Bhajan. I really enjoyed, and yeah, that's it, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So with that, we'd like to take a break from this, and our annual day ends here for today, and we will resume tomorrow. Oh, yes, we have Brajvilasni Mataji also online. She's our craft teacher. Sorry, Mataji, I did not see you. Okay. Yes, please go ahead and share also a minute or two about what your realization was teaching craft.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Teaching crafts involve a lot of challenges, but here I would want to really thank all the parents for their support. It was almost like a parent and child class because it involved a lot of their involvement in teaching the kids. But thanks to all the kids, we tried to relate the story and the craft as much as we could, and we are hoping the kids enjoyed as much as we enjoyed teaching them. Thank you so much, and thank you Raseshwari Mataji, Sukeshwari Mataji, Vaisesika Prabhu, and Nirupal Mataji for the opportunity and for giving us a chance to serve these young Vaishnavas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, and I'm very grateful for you for blessing us always.
First, I'd like to know if anybody memorized the bhajan. Sri Ram, 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 Ram. Our heartfelt thanks to you, Rasheshwari Leela, Sukeshwari, and all the teachers who daily extend yourselves to all the children in the community, organize. Your tireless service is bearing fruit. The world needs people who are well-adjusted, who are spiritually strong, and who can hold forth and teach others how to walk the path of human life and make it a success. And you're like farmers. You're planting the fields, you're cultivating, and you're doing the most extraordinary service. And it's behind the scenes until we actually get a look at it. Of course, we do see the children as they're coming up, and they're extraordinary. Much and thanks to you, and thanks to all the parents also who hang in here in Silicon Valley, even though there are challenges because it's astronomically expensive, but you stay here nonetheless, just so the children can grow up in this environment. Thanks to all of you for this Herculean task. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande Haribo. I have a special announcement to make. Sharira Vijaja Jodendriya Tahika Jibe Pele Jaya Shagare Tarma Je Jivayati Loban Boy Sukumati Take Jeta Katita Shanshare Krishna Boradoya Moy Gori Bari Jihvajai Shaprashadana Dilobai Shayanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Guna Gao Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Sappa Punya Patam Rajan Vishwaso Navijayate Prasade Sarva Dukanam Anirasya Pujayate Pampanache Pasoyashi Urupaya Patisate Paya Prabhuta Sakanda Sasavam Parajita Utishta Bojina Dasat Namamayam Jayemani Bhagavad Shri Mahaprasadi Gaur Premanande Nitai Gaura Haribo May I say it? No more announcements? Please come take prasadam. Vanchagopdurusha kripasinave vacha patitanam bhavanibhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha nantakulti vaishnavin ki